So, police forces across the country are very likely to be soon rolling out facial recognition cameras after their largest ever deployment at the King's coronation.
So they were mounted atop police vans or on officers' body armour. The cameras work by scanning every face in a crowd to look for known troublemakers.
But this has sparked anger amongst privacy campaigners who feel how do I feel?
Affronted?
Worried. Affronted. I feel concerned about the permanent intrusion into the privacy of my life.
So we're going to speak to the Legal and Policy Officer for Big Brother Watch, Madeleine Stone. Madeleine, is this the official arrival now of Big Brother?
Well, it's certainly taking us one step closer to a Big Brother society. Live facial recognition is really intrusive, really dystopian mass surveillance technology that is not based on suspicion. It means everyone who passes by that camera is scanned and effectively has a police ID check. It really turns us into walking barcodes that the police can scan our faces at will and check us against watch lists. So this is a super Orwellian, really dystopian technology that absolutely has no place on the streets of Britain.
In your view, Madeleine, should there have been some political discussion about this before this happened? I mean, it's obviously happening on an operational level, but should there have been some political input into this?
It is an absolute scandal that there hasn't been that political input. I mean, there's no law that has the words facial recognition in. MPs haven't even debated this in Parliament, let alone pass any legislation allowing this technology to be used. So police have been totally let off the leash with this technology. The Home Office has sort of bung them a couple of million and said, get on with it and let them write their own rules about how it's used. And without any kind of democratic or parliamentary involvement. So it's an absolute scandal that something as controversial and dangerous as this technology is just been, being rolled out without any proper oversight. I mean, it shouldn't be rolled out at all, frankly, but the way it's been done is really appalling and really bad for our rights.
Madeleine, there's not even any sort of framework, is there, around this technology as to whether it would allow the police to start an investigative lead into seeing someone's face, or whether it's even taken as a burden of proof. We've had cases in America. There was one in California recently of a gentleman who was arrested for theft, and he wasn't even in the area. I mean, it was a false arrest because, as anybody knows who's ever tried to reset their broadband, technology is not foolproof. It does go wrong.
Absolutely. This technology is really inaccurate as well. And I think it's really important you raise that case because there have been a lot of cases in the States where this is used more widely, where people have been held in prison cells for weeks. People have lost their jobs, they've lost their houses over false matches with facial recognition. And that is a problem here in the UK too. The Met's own statistics, the Met and South Wales Police are the two forces using it right now. Their statistics combined show that 90% of matches are wrongful matches. So people who are totally innocent, who've done nothing wrong, are being flagged by this technology, pulled aside by police officers, pulled out of the crowd, usually in front of their friends or family, having their fingerprints taken, ID checks, held, forced to prove that they're not a criminal, completely reverses the principle of innocent until proven guilty. With facial recognition, you're guilty until you can prove your innocence.
Yeah. Well, isn't this something the Police and Crime Commissioner, for instance, in that area should be looking into, saying, oi, 90% failure, the technology's not good enough, stop it. Stop it until it's improved and until there has been a proper, reasonable debate in Parliament.
I mean, this is something that the government should be getting a grip of. And of course, police and crime commissioners should also be looking into this. And in fact, in North Wales, the police and crime commissioner has been very opposed to it and it hasn't been used there. But this is really something for MPs and for the government to deal with, because they are really allowing the police just off the leash with this technology. It's so dangerous. It's so intrusive. The risk of misidentifications and life-changing consequences for people are enormous. And the government have just said, get on with it. It's just simply not good enough.
Madeleine,
MPs really need to wake up and start overseeing this.
Big Brother Watch do the most remarkable work, and I support your organisation wholeheartedly. We are one of the very few channels that will even discuss this. How often do Big Brother Watch get invited onto BBC One, ITV? And if so, how is this debate handled differently?
I have to say that I have had some BBC requests and some ITV requests, and
Good.
as people are interested in this. I mean, it's great that you guys are talking about it today. It's so important. But I think right now the problem is that the government are very quietly, and actually we saw yesterday the policing minister had meetings behind closed doors with police forces, encouraging them to use it. They're not willing to come out publicly and say we want to use this because they know how controversial it is. And so a lot of people aren't really aware of it. And of course, it's so great that you guys want to talk about it today. But I think the government, again, need to be having these conversations publicly in Parliament to give broadcasters, policymakers, the public the chance to talk about this.
Madeleine, just one point. If the police were here, they would defend themselves by saying, OK, we get the technology wrong sometimes, but actually this facial recognition, if it catches one terrorist in a crowd, it's worth the mistakes. What would you say to that?
In a democracy, we have to accept that there will be surveillance, there will be targeted surveillance, and that's really useful for police. I've got no issue with surveillance that's targeted at people who are suspected of doing wrong. That's really useful, and I wouldn't ever decry that. But this is not like that. This is mass suspicionless surveillance that scans everyone. And frankly, it makes the police's job harder. We saw at the coronation, there were 3 police vans. There would have been tens of officers, thousands and tens of thousands of pounds spent, thousands of people being scanned. It's like, it makes it more difficult for police because there's such a broad spectrum. What should be used should be targeted surveillance that actually is proven to work, unlike this mass surveillance that just confuses things, makes their job more difficult and is really inaccurate.
OK, Madeleine, fascinating. Thank you so much, Madeleine Stone there from Big Brother Watch. Whenever I've seen this debate done on some of these other daytime channels...
I don't watch them. That's the answer. Just don't watch them.
I used to be on them.
Watch them, don't listen to them.
You're on them quite a lot. But the debate tends to be, we need more. We want more surveillance. We want it to keep us safe. No, let's just calm down and work out what this means.
90% is pretty disturbing.
But it's also about privacy. We will not. So you will walk down the street, and every time you walk down the street, you will know that someone could be looking at you and where you are and what you're doing. Privacy, say goodbye to it.